Hey everybody, welcome to Thursday night. Welcome to the Consumer Warrior YouTube channel. Every Thursday night we do this question and answer, go over all things debt related, bankruptcy, debt collection, lawsuits, wage garnishments, and all the other list of horribles out there. Appreciate you checking in if you're watching it live, and also those who watch this on the replay. Really quick with my normal disclaimer, I appreciate all you checking in here, but the information I'm providing is just that, legal information. It should not be construed as legal advice because I don't know your exact situation. Not only that, and probably more importantly, I'm not licensed in most states. I'm only licensed to practice law in the state of Arizona. So if you need legal advice, I highly recommend you find an attorney in your specific state. But we'll talk about different ideas, different strategies. If you have comments or questions, go ahead and put them there in the comment section. That way we can, each and every week, we pull some of those up, put them on the screen, and discuss those and different possibilities, different strategies. One thing, hey, Dave Lamb is back. Went to Flagstaff to get out of the heat. He's one of my Arizona natives here. Arizona hasn't been too bad this year. We've had quite a bit of rain, actually. A lot of the Southwest has, which is desperately needed. But Dave, thanks for supporting the channel, as well as Marcos. Always there each and every week. I sincerely appreciate your support of the channel. So, all right. The final disclaimer, watching this doesn't create any type of attorney-client relationship. I have had people reach out to me after like a live stream. They'll email me with specific questions. I can't do that. Just because of some of the ethical rules involved with lawyers and all the stuff that we deal with. So, if you do have any questions, though, please go ahead and put them up there on the in the chat there in the comment section, and we'll discuss them as we kind of go through here. One topic I wanted to start off tonight, something you may have seen in the news, is that the U.S. Supreme Court held that the eviction moratorium, that it can't go forward like it's been going forward. Essentially, it just kept getting postponed and extended. Which I think helped a lot of people, but also at the same point, it was stopping the evictions, but it wasn't stopping the debt from the rent from accruing. And so I kept on thinking, well, one day this is going to end, and just there's going to be this tsunami of evictions, and that we may start to see that here in the near future. But something I was going to tell people: if you find yourself in that situation, that is where a bankruptcy, particularly a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, can really help you out, because if you are renting a place and you've fallen behind and you've been able to stay there because of the eviction moratorium that's in place, you can file Chapter 7, get rid of that debt completely, to be discharged. Not only that, if there's still months remaining on your lease, in a bankruptcy, you could reject the lease. They're called executory contracts. And executory contracts can be rejected in bankruptcy, so you wouldn't owe anything on them going forward. So that's something that's been in the news. I've just been thinking a lot about lately, is what's going to happen when all these moratoriums stop. And it looks like there are a few states, I think California, particularly the Northern California area, they're leaving their moratorium in place. But on the federal scope of things, the Supreme Court said that the CDC did not have the authority to issue this just nationwide ban on evictions. So I've kind of seen the positive and the negatives to that. So, all right. Again, if you have any questions or anything that you want to go over, please put them in the comment section so we can throw them up. Looks like we've got our regulars here tonight over there in the comment section chatting away. Appreciate all those who come each and every week to do this. So we can talk also about some debt collection strategies, or as far as dealing with them and dealing with debt settlement strategies. I've seen a lot of people who are not going the bankruptcy route, and they're looking more for debt settlement opportunities because of something we've talked about before. There tends to be a little more cash right now because of some of these stimulus. Most people in the country are receiving this stimulus on a monthly basis, like on the 15th of each month, this extra money is coming in, and you can use those funds to try to settle the debts out. My recommendation, if you're trying to settle a debt, is to come up with a settlement budget first. You've got to know exactly what it is that you can offer. Don't go to a creditor and ask them, what will you take? Because they're always going to say, we'll take 100%. Come up with something you can do, whether it's in a lump sum or a monthly payment, and then feel like you can reach out to the particular creditor with a specific offer. And again, one other bit of advice: do not pay them any money until you get something in writing. It can be an email, it can be a letter, They can write it on an old wrapper and send it to you, whatever, something in writing, because that's what's going to hold up in the event that they don't want to follow through with the settlement. All right, let's jump into some of these questions here. Let's go with Miss 757 here. I'm being sued by a debt collector and I ask for arbitration according to the arbitration clause. I have to find the arbitrator, and how do I do that? This is a great question. So most arbitration clauses in credit card agreements, in the terms and conditions, they use AAA, the American Arbitration Association, or JAMS. I can't remember what JAMS stands for right now. It's JAMS, all caps. It's an acronym. So those are the two private arbitration companies out there. And so you can go to their website, you can go to JAMS, you can go to AAA, American Arbitration Association. They will have information on how you actually contact them. One thing I would take a look at is read very closely the arbitration clause in the terms and conditions of your credit card, because a lot of times it says that the party who is asserting a claim, they're the ones who have to start it. So if you ask the court for arbitration and they dismissed it or they put everything on hold, I've often taken the position it's the creditor, the collector, that needs to initiate arbitration, because they're the ones that have a claim against you, unless you're asserting some other claim against them. But often that's how it is, and really press them. You can even send the creditor a letter saying, here's the terms and conditions. It says you have to initiate it, and see if they'll do that. So that's how I would get it started. But you can find that information on their websites. Again, American Arbitration Association, AAA, or JAMS, JAMS. Just check that out. All right. Should you sign a reaffirmation agreement for a mortgage in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? This is also a great question. It's a question that comes up all the time, and it is bankruptcy attorneys. It's one of the banes of our existence, is the reaffirmation agreements as it relates to mortgages. So in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the bankruptcy code states that you're going to require to sign a reaffirmation agreement on certain secured debts, particularly car loans. So if you have a car that you owe money on, after the bankruptcy is filed, if you're going to keep that car, the lender will send a reaffirmation agreement. The reaffirmation agreement is essentially a contract where you are reaffirming the terms of the prior agreement, or sometimes there can be negotiated terms where the interest rate is a little lower or the payment's lower or something like that. In a car situation, it's normal for the reaffirmation agreement to be sent over. And there's a few things that have to happen. One, the creditor has to agree to it. They have to sign it. You have to sign it as the person who's going through the bankruptcy, and the court has to approve it. Now, if the court approves it, you are bound by that agreement. And if something happens down the road where you can't make a payment on the vehicle, it allows the lender to not only come and repossess the car, but then they can sue you for the balance. So essentially, it's almost like a new contract you're signing after your bankruptcy is filed. And any new contracts that you have after bankruptcy is filed, they're not discharged in your bankruptcy. So they can come after you for that balance. Because of that, when it comes to car loans in the state of Arizona, very rarely do the courts approve reaffirmation agreements because they don't think they're a very good deal. You can continue to make the car payments, and then, if they, as long as you're making those payments, they typically do not try to repossess it. The only one I've seen that gets a little more aggressive is Ford Motor Credit. They will sometimes repossess if you don't sign the reaffirmation agreement, but this may be regional too. So if you're not in the state of Arizona, you may want to, if you're going through bankruptcy, talk to your attorney. Now, Chad, let me get back to your main question, the original question. Should you reaffirm a mortgage? I've been doing this for almost 18 years. Not once have we reaffirmed a mortgage. In the state of Arizona, I don't know a single bankruptcy judge that would reaffirm a mortgage. And the reason why is because it's similar to the situation with the car. If the court were to approve a reaffirmation agreement and sign off on it, and then let's say 2 years from now, something happens, unexpected. Maybe there's a global pandemic and you can't keep your house anymore. Not only can they foreclose, but they can come after you then for the balance, or what we call the deficiency. So they could sue you for that. And so I can tell you that, one, the bankruptcy code doesn't require you to reaffirm mortgage loans. And two, there's a lot of risk in doing it. Particularly if you're in the state of Arizona, there's a lot of risk because Arizona has something called an anti-deficiency statute, meaning if your house gets foreclosed on and it's your primary residence, it just wipes out all the debts of the road. They get the home back, but they don't get to come after you for the balance as long as certain conditions are met. There's some concern if there's a reaffirmation in a bankruptcy that maybe you have now waived that law, you waived that right, and you could be held liable on it. So the reason why, those are the reasons why I usually don't recommend people sign them. Again, if you're not in Arizona, if you have an attorney, definitely talk with them. But that's something you need to be very careful about and think about because that can have huge consequences. The downside to it is they do not have to report on-time payments to the credit reporting agencies, to the credit bureaus. They don't report anything, period, if the loan is not reaffirmed. And sometimes they're pains in the butt and they don't allow you to make your payments online. So there's some inconvenience associated with it, but you can still pay off the house as normal as long as you're making the payments. They're not going to be able to foreclose. So I know that's kind of a long spiel on that, but it's an issue that comes up all the time. And here's how it always comes up. Someone files for bankruptcy, they have a mortgage, it's not reaffirmed, as has been for all time. Those mortgage loans are not reaffirmed. And they always call up my clients, their customers, and say, well, your attorney must have messed up and didn't reaffirm your loan, so there's not much we can do for you. And then they really try to blame the attorneys for messing this up when it's really, they know what they're doing. They know that they're trying to put you in a better position. It only benefits them. It doesn't benefit anybody else. So, all right, our retirement safe. Let's talk about this. Jonas, retirement accounts are usually protected. I say usually because it kind of depends, one, on your state exemption laws. There's federal exemption laws that protect things like IRAs, 401ks, and then like in Arizona where I live, there's certain exemptions that protect things like pensions for police officers and school teachers. So you need to look in your state, and you can find your state exemptions pretty easy. Just Google Florida state exemptions. And you should get some information that'll pop up pretty quick. Social Security is protected in and out of bankruptcy. I mean, disability, VA disability, those kind of things they're not going to be able to take. So generally, yes, they are protected. So, hey, Michael T., thank you for supporting the channel. Let's go ahead and get this one. You have a mandatory settlement conference tomorrow and don't think that the plaintiff's going to show. Is this grounds for dismissal? I'm in California. I can tell you, I don't know if it is in California. It is in Arizona. If they don't show, particularly if your actual judge is involved, you can ask for a dismissal right there. But where I can tell you, in my situation where I've had that happen, we show up to a settlement conference, mediation type hearing where they're having a mediator present. The other side doesn't show. Sometimes the mediator will want to reschedule it. I say, no, we're going to file a motion to dismiss. If I can't get in front of the judge right then and there and just, verbally say, hey, judge, they didn't show up, would like this dismissed, I file a motion to dismiss saying that they didn't participate in a court order process and that it should be dismissed for just failure to prosecute. So I definitely would press that issue if they don't show. And the reason why, too, is because when the shoe's on the other foot, if you weren't to show up, it seems like the judgment's entered like immediately. And I brought that up to judges. I'm saying, hey, turnaround's fair play here, that if they're not going to show, the whole thing should be dropped as well. So, all righty, let's do this. Let's go up here. Let's do another bankruptcy. Can bankruptcy wipe out a second mortgage in Georgia? Another good question. Good question, but somewhat complicated. The complicated part of it is depends on the chapter. If you're in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, you're not going to be able to eliminate a secured debt like that, a debt where there's collateral, it's attached to the property. That's a voluntary lien. It's something you agreed to as part of the contract. So no, bankruptcy will not wipe that out. If you don't pay that second mortgage after filing Chapter 7, they can go in and foreclose on it. If you're in a Chapter 13, it's possible to get rid of second mortgages in very limited circumstances. It's so limited that there was only a short window of time, a couple of years, when we were able to do it. It's called lien stripping, where we're able to strip off liens if your house is upside down. So we saw this in the last recession from like 08, like 2012, where if the value of your home, and this is only in Chapter 13 bankruptcy, but if the value of your home dropped below the value of like, so if you had a first and a second, so let's say you had a first mortgage of 100,000, second mortgage or a HELOC or something like that of 50, and let's say that the value of your home was 95,000. So not only is you have these two mortgages on it, but the value of your house is less than what's owed, even on the first. Then you could wipe out any of those like HELOCs and all that. But unfortunately, you're in a situation where housing market is spiking everywhere. So it's not, unless you're in a situation where your house is upside down, where it's worth way less than what you owe on it, it's not likely. Definitely have to have an attorney to do that. That's advanced level bankruptcy stuff, and you need some help getting that done. All right, let's see what else we've got going on. Let's do this one. Also read, okay, well, let's start with this first one. Considering Chapter 7, how's being in my parents' will going to be affected? And then there's a follow-up here. We'll start with this first one. This is a good question. With Chapter 7 bankruptcy, income received is usually kind of a backwards-looking process. So you file bankruptcy. We're recording this on September 2nd. They're going to look at your income going backwards, with a couple exceptions. If within 180 days of filing for bankruptcy, you become entitled to an inheritance, the court can step in and yank it. They can take that inheritance from you. So that's the only way it's going to affect their will, is if you become entitled to it. So you're in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, sometime within 180 days, someone passes away and you become entitled to it. And it's important to know it's that you become entitled to it, not that you actually receive it. And usually if there's a will, just the mere passing of that person legally operates to transfer or make you become entitled to it. So if that happens within a 6-month window after filing, that's how it could impact it. Second question on that, I also read, you should wait before starting a new job. I'm currently an independent contractor. Really, the only reason why I think that you generally would wait is if there's a concern about the means test. In a Chapter 7, you do have to qualify for bankruptcy. They look at the average income for a household of your size in your state, and they average it out over the prior 6 months, not counting the month that you file your bankruptcy in. So for instance, for cases that I'm filing, bankruptcies I'm filing here in Arizona in my law practice that we're filing in September, we would go August 31st back 6 months. So that would only be the only reason why I could think of not to do it, is because you're going to be in a situation where if your income was going to spike or dramatically, throw off the average, then that could be a reason to wait. So, all right. Michael T again. Hey, and I saw your thing on the Facebook group. I will do that. I'll do that right when we get done. Have I had any experience with Velocity Investments? Or yes, I have with both, particularly Velocity Investments. We deal with them all the time. Junk debt buyer, Mandrich Law Group. I know that they deal with some of their cases. So with Velocity, kind of lower level junk debt buyer, it's changed hands multiple times getting to them. And so those cases are usually pretty good, where there's several layers of transfers, because they're not going to have some of the steps along the way. So absolutely. All right, Anne Marie, thank you for the super sticker, and John as well. Appreciate it. All right. Let's see if do we have a success story? Appreciate your videos. I've used them to fight a case on my own. No attorney. Got my case dismissed with prejudice against the creditor just this last Friday. Brian, awesome. I'm glad you're able to do that. Glad the videos were helping here. The whole reason why I do this YouTube channel and put out these videos is because that's what I found over the almost 20 years that I've been doing this, is sometimes just having a little bit of information can go such a long way, because you get sued or you have this big debt problem and you just end up in a panic situation because you immediately think you're going to jail over this whole thing. And when I realized, look, there's no jail. Let's just kind of lay out some of the steps and some of the problems here that they have in their cases, and you can get some good results like that. For those of you watching too, having a case dismissed with prejudice is important. If you're fighting a case and they want to drop it, or the judge is saying they're going to dismiss it for maybe like not showing up to a settlement conference or mediation, always ask for it to be dismissed with prejudice. That means that it cannot be filed again. Sometimes the courts will dismiss them without prejudice, or they won't say. And there's some case law out there that says if a case is just dismissed and it doesn't say with or without prejudice, the assumption is it's without prejudice, meaning that they could refile it again. So hopefully that will help. Hey, I think that's going to do it for tonight. I feel like I've been yakking here all night. So, but I appreciate everybody checking in tonight. Again, we try to do this each and every Thursday, and I put out a new video each Tuesday as well, if you want to check those out. I put a link pin that to the top here. If you do have interest in some of the online courses that I do, I have a link there. There's that one in arbitration that I know a lot of people have used, and even drafting an answer or even settlement bankruptcy. Go ahead and check those out. But I appreciate y'all